Hey guys, Mobile Gamers Unite. So, in lieu of recent events, me pulling Gerold and Layla on my free-to-play account, I decided to do a video, and this is something I've wanted to do for a while. I wanted to do a video explaining why these are the quote-unquote worst SSR characters ever, okay? And this is what Reddit's called them. Pretty much the whole community came together and hated on this SSR character that, was given to us for free, but I myself had to pull. So, first of all, what does Gerold and Layla do? I mean, what is their primary function in this game? Let me tell you what makes them unique. Gerold and Layla are the only character in this game that can always exploit an armor weakness in the enemy. Okay, what does that mean? That means that if your enemy is a mage and he has a really high magic defense, Gerold and Layla are going to be able to do physical damage to him primarily, and they're going to be able to hit him hard. On the other hand, if your enemy is some sort of infantry or lancer unit or anything that has a high defense, Gerold and Layla are going to be able to turn around and do magic damage to them, exploiting their weakness. And if you guys pay attention to the way that defense and armor works in this game, typically mages, or a character that has 250 armor is only going to have like 80 magic armor, magic defense, okay? And characters that have 250 defense are only going to have like 75 magic defense. So that's a huge thing to exploit for this character, okay? I think the problem is, though, first of all, if you ever run this character on auto, they will commit suicide the first turn. You'll look away for a second and you'll look back and they're dead. There doesn't even have to be anything around them. Sometimes it seems like they just find a way to kill themselves on turn one. This is not an auto character. You have to run it yourself, okay? So on my main account here, when I got this character, we're gonna talk about their skill trees and stuff. I went down the wrong skill tree first, okay? So if you want a good Gerold and Layla, do not follow my lead, okay? Follow my advice instead, because I'll admit, I messed up when choosing their skills. I should have went the other way first, okay? The other thing too, if you really want this character to shine, you're probably gonna have to invest some runestones into them, okay? And a lot of people, they don't want to do that, all right? Because they already read on Reddit that this is such a terrible character, that this is the worst SSR ever made. So a lot of people just gave up on this character without really seeing what their full potential is, okay? So, first of all, let's look at their talent, Moonlit Oath. Layla's damage is not reduced in melee battles. That's awesome, okay? Characters like that, rogues, archers, when they get into physical combat, their damage is reduced when they're retaliating, which really sucks. I was just talking to a guildie about this because there's a bow that pretty much gives somebody part of this talent right here where damage is not reduced in melee battles for rogues and for archers. That bow goes a long way, okay? It makes assassins and archers retaliate so hard because even if you manage to get them into hand-to-hand combat, they're still going to do full damage to you. So this is very useful already, but let's keep going, okay? Ranged attack heal allies for 50% of the sum of Gerold and Layla's attack and intelligence, and dispels one debuff, okay? So they took the healing down a little bit, but they added this dispels one debuff. That's amazing, okay? That dispelling that debuff is going to make endgame content a lot better than healing the extra 500 hit points that they used to heal. So to me, that is a huge effing plus that they did that, okay? Because now you're getting rid of debuffs. Nobody really cared about the minuscule amount of damage that they were healing, all right? But the debuff thing is huge, okay? Melee attacks heal this unit for 10% of the damage dealt and grants debuff immunity for 1 turn. That's a big deal, but what you have to realize is those are melee attacks, okay? That's only if Gerold's attacking. If you're shooting at somebody with sorceresses, you're not going to get that, okay? So the only way Gerold and Layla can heal themselves is if they actually square up in close quarters combat with you. And that's why they have like this charge ability, onrush. Attacks a single enemy dealing 1.5 damage before battle. Defense and magic defense of the unit increases by 30%. That's awesome because you can minimize the damage taken and you can dish out some damage and you're going to be able to heal off of that. Okay? A lot of times onrush is what Gerold and Layla use to heal themselves to be self-sufficient, because what you want to do is you probably want to run sorceresses or some kind of ranged unit, and you want to start hitting people from a range with that and kind of soften them up. If you take a hit along the way, you always have the option to run up and use onrush and heal yourself for part of the damage that you've dealt. Okay? But here's the thing, before you do that, you need to think about whether or not you want to use demonic arts. And I think this is where a lot of people get confused, okay? Demonic arts. Magical damage dealt by the hero is considered physical damage, and increase intelligence by 10% of attack, last 4 turns, okay? And this is damage by the hero, okay? So pretty much what this means is if you're using Layla and Layla does a magic attack, so you can turn her attack into physical damage, which is very useful when you're going up against a mage, all right? Because again, this affects the hero's damage. This isn't going to affect your troops. Your sorceresses are still going to do magic damage, okay? So there's that side of the spectrum. But then if you go into their tree skills, you can go the other way with if you actually get Layla's class here, which is what I should have done. I should have went with Herald and Royal Envoy first and then gotten Highlander. Okay, the difference here is if Layla is your unit here, instead of Gerold being the lead, first of all, your character moves 3 blocks instead of 5. Okay, that's kind of a big difference. But Layla, she attacks from a distance with a magical attack, which you can augment to be a physical attack, which is really awesome. But in order to heal, you still have to square up in close quarters combat. Even if you're using Layla, when you square up into close quarters combat, Gerold will still do his charge attack, and that's what you're going to heal off of. And you can use these augment skills. You can use them to turn Gerold's damage into magic damage, which is highly effective against lancers, pretty much anything physical, infantry, cavalry, anything that uses a defense, he's going to be able to attack their magic defense, okay? And this is part of the reason why you need runes on this character, because no matter which way you're running, you're going to want these augment skills. There's demonic arts, okay? And this turns magic damage dealt by the hero into physical damage. So that means Layla, from a distance, can do physical damage to somebody. And then you have this one, augment. Physical damage dealt by the hero is considered as magical damage. Okay? So that means when Gerold does his charge, that can be magical damage. And he's going to heal off of that, and he's going to do a lot more damage, because instead of going up against a 250 armor, the armor you're going to go up against is going to be like 85. So you're going to do like double or triple damage. Okay? A lot of times, though, you don't need to use these augment skills right off rip. That's the mistake that I see people making. They instantly use these augment skills thinking that in the end they're going to do more damage no matter what, because they prepared this buff for themselves, when they're not looking at the enemies. Okay, if I'm using Gerold as a Highlander, okay, the ability that I have is to turn magic damage into physical damage. Alright? If I see a bunch of mages coming, great. But if I see just normal infantry, cavalry units that use defense as their primary stat, I'm gonna want to do magic damage to them. So it would be pointless for me to use demonic arts. Okay. The other thing too is it seems like these should be flipped. It seems like Layla should get demonic arts and Gerold should get what's this one called? Augment. Okay. They did that on purpose, guys, so that you would have to use a rune stone. Okay. That there's no other way around it. All right. But when you do, this unit becomes extremely pliable and effective. They can adapt, they can do a little bit of healing to everybody, they can even heal themselves. Alright, so I will be ruining out my other one. The problem I made here is I should have went with Herald and Royal Envoy first. I should have gotten her her Holy Ward. It's a 1-turn cooldown. It does ranged magical damage that you can change to physical damage, and it heals everybody 4 times the caster's intelligence. Not everyone, but it heals friendly unit with the lowest hit points. That's awesome. That doesn't have a range. That can be very, very useful, and the cooldown is 1 round. So she can run around spamming this and realistically heal people while doing ranged damage and being effective. So I should have gotten these first. I should have gotten her Holy Ward skill, and then I should have gotten Highlander. Because then I could have run around with 5 movement, okay, and then I could still spam Holy Ward, which would have just been awesome. That's what I'm going for on my free-to-play account. I already have Herald unlocked. I'm going to get the Royal Envoy. I'm going to get Holy Ward, and as soon as I do that, I'm going to be switching to Highlander. So I can move 5, and then I can still do my ranged attacks. I still am going to use sorceresses, okay? They just do a bunch of damage, but realistically, the way that this pans out is your heroes do about 60 to 70% of the damage you do, and then their little troops do the other 30%. The fact that Gerold and Layla can choose whether their 70% of damage goes against your defense or your magic defense, man, it makes their damage like twice, maybe 3 times as effective, because you're always going to be going against the lowest stat. I have yet to see an enemy in Landgrisser that has 300 defense, 300 magic defense. If there is one, and I don't know, maybe there is, somebody let me know. Let me know in the comments. But typically I've been paying attention, especially recently, because I've been playing with these characters on my free-to-playish account, and I've been paying attention to defense and magic defense, and it's a huge difference, and these characters can exploit it. On top of that, Gerold and Layla can have vampire bats, making them extremely efficient, self-sufficient. Okay, and if you go the other way, you can have wizards. Wizards hit really hard. We don't hear that much about them because everybody's running sorceresses, and they can get sorceresses and witches too. Okay, so all in all, they're just an amazing character, but you have to know how to play them. And then of course they have this move again ability. It lets them hit and run. Not only am I going to be able to hit you and do my attacks against your weakest defense, then I'm going to be able to move away from you if I still have movement left. And if you're running a Highlander or a Dark Knight, you're almost always going to have movement left. That is very important. On top of that, when attacking, damage increases by 10%. That's always so nice to have. Okay, so that's what they come with. It's a passive. It only costs 1 skill point. It's awesome. There's plenty of room for you to take augment or demonic arts, okay? But guys, don't just go casting that on the first turn. Look at your opponent and look at what you're going up against, okay? And just remember how they work. Even if you're using Layla, when you get into close quarters combat, Gerold's still the one that attacks, and he's still going to do physical damage in close quarters combat unless you use one of these augment abilities to make him do magical damage. And Layla is going to attack ranged if you have her class. That's the thing. That's where it's confusing, is if you're running primarily Gerold's class, Layla does not attack ranged attack. She just kind of stands there and the sorceresses do it, okay? But if you get into close quarters combat, then Gerold will attack, okay? But if you're running Layla as the primary character, Layla will attack with ranged attacks and she'll help your sorceresses out, okay? But when you get into close quarters combat, Gerold will still attack. So it's kind of misleading, okay? And I think that's where a lot of the confusion is, because you got both of the heroes working on one side of the tree and both of them getting to attack. But if you go to the other side of the tree, only one of the characters actually gets to attack. Over here on Highlander, even when you're doing ranged attacks, Layla just kind of stands back. She doesn't do anything. All right? So guys, before you do anything with these characters, look at the enemy that you're fighting, figure out which stat you want to attack, and then go after that one, and you will find these characters to be so effective, especially now that they get rid of debuffs. That's just effing amazing, okay? And obviously with vampire bats, between vampire bats and sorceresses, man, it's a toss-up. But I'll be honest with you, I'm probably still going to run the sorceresses, because what happens is I move up, I blast a few enemies, kind of soften them up a little bit, and if I manage to take any damage at all, what I do is I can use, where is it? I can use, oh, it's the ability that he starts with. I can use his onrush ability, which you get at level 1. I can use onrush, so I minimize the damage that I take and do some damage to the enemy, and I'm going to heal off of that. And you can really bank on this with vampire bats too. It's going to increase your healing a lot. The other thing that, I don't know if they changed this or not yet, but the old description used to say like they ignore attack priority, which means that, and this is how it used to be, when Gerold and Layla would get into combat with something, it's like Gerold and Layla would take some of the damage and their troops would take some of the damage. It wasn't your troops getting killed and then the damage overflowing to Gerold and Layla, okay? Because a lot of times you want to keep your troops alive so that you can attack somebody from a range, okay? If all your sorceresses die, the only thing you can do is a short-range attack. So, Gerold and Layla will sometimes step in and they will take part of the damage to keep some of their sorceresses alive. I've seen that happen. I don't know if they're still doing that. They obviously rewrote their talent, and I was kind of worried at first because they weren't healing as much, but then when I read that it gets rid of a debuff, that's so amazing for, like, oh, I don't know, the red dragon who throws an AoE debuff on everybody every freaking turn. So this is going to help with a lot of content like that. And like I said, you're always going to be able to choose to attack your enemy's weakest point. So I hope this clarifies a few things on Gerold and Layla. They are far from the worst character in this game. Alright? When I get my Gerold and Layla on my alt account to a pretty good level, I will do some videos on them actually running around and destroying things, and I will do a tutorial on how they really should be used. But for now, this covers a lot of it, guys. If you've had confusions about this, really, I mean, everybody pretty much has this character. Get in there and really look at them, really read the skills, really go over what they've changed, run them in a game, see how they work, okay? But try to apply my theory to it. You will do a lot more. And remember, keep your finger off the auto button. That's just a suicide button for Gerold and Layla. They'll find a way to kill themselves without even an enemy being around. You won't even know how they did it. Sometimes I just think they got marital problems and they turn on themselves. Alright? So stay away from auto. They will die before the turn even starts. I don't know how, but they just will. Alright, this is the most suicidal auto character in the history of Landgrassy. Alright, so guys, check it out. If you like my video and you want more content like this, don't forget to subscribe, hit a like. Alright, and this is Vlad. I'm out. You guys have a good day every day.